Good morning to the Honorable Ministers of the Council, members of the media, online viewers, radio listeners via St. Martin Gov Radio 107.9 FM, and respective radio stations island-wide. I'm Charity Dunker, and welcome to the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, March 30th, 2022. At this time, I'd like to invite the Minister of Public Housing, Spatial Planning, Environment and Infrastructure, the Honorable Edward Duran, to address you.
Thank you, Ms. Dunker. Good morning, Prime Minister. Good morning, members of the media, and a special good morning to the people of St. Martin that are tuned in here and abroad. Today, I have a few brief updates from the Ministry of VROMI, which are as follows. I wish to bring to the attention that the Ministry of VROMI is currently organizing a job mixer event that will be held on April 19th, 2022 from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. at the Government Administration Building in Room 1. This event is geared towards highlighting the various departments in the Ministry of VROMI and their functions. Very important to mention is that this will also include a breakdown of various job vacancies within the ministry that are currently available. The goal of this event is to give those interested the opportunity to gain the valuable insight into the experiences of those that work across the board within our ministry. The event is also geared towards seeking skilled professionals on various levels, as the ministry intends to showcase some of the projects that are currently being worked on, allowing the attendees to get a better understanding of the organization. The goal is to have all current vacancies filled by bringing awareness to job seekers, whether locally or, for instance, graduate students that are living abroad, who can then submit their application for the vacancies in their respective fields. The main logistics for this event has been rounded off, and as was mentioned, the date right now is April 19, 2022, 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. at the Government Administration Building. Later on, you will receive publications where persons can register for said event. Another very important announcement that I am honored to share with the general public is that in honor of the late Jocelyn Arnell, who was a true pioneer to the arts and culture, it has been decided to rename the festival village to the Jocelyn Arnell Festival Village. Mr. Jocelyn Arnell dedicated almost his entire life towards enriching the population with cultural awareness. As I mentioned previously during his tribute, Mr. Arnell lived a life of service to the people of St. Martin in many ways. He wore various hats. He was a civil servant for decades, a famous entertainer, and one of our very own Carnival founders and heroes. It is very fitting to remember that this icon who paved the way and started the Carnival Village, which is known today as the Festival Village. I would like to congratulate his family, friends, and former co-workers, and the community of St. Martin on a whole. I would also like to make it known that the ministry is in process of doing some research in regards to our national heroes. We would like to look into the naming and also renaming of streets and buildings after various icons who have paved the way for us to be here where we are at today. More information will be forthcoming. In regards to NVGEBE, I wish to inform that the professionals are working diligently on solving our existing issue. Again, I want to reiterate that seeing the sensitivity of the issue, I will not be delving too much publicly into it at this time. In the meantime, as was published recently, the customers who use online banking system can make the payments via the online banking. You will have to ensure that your contact account number is included in the transaction. The main office on Phillipsburg and Simpson May are still currently closed to the public. With that, I've concluded my updates that I have for now, and I look forward to any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Egbert Duran. At this time, I'd like to invite and welcome the Minister of Finance, Irian Otwell, to address you.
Good morning to the Prime Minister, colleague, media, and the viewing public. I have a brief, trying to get my laptop loaded. I have a brief update in regards to yesterday. I was talking yesterday. I would like to thank the media that was there yesterday for the discussions we had in regards to the vehicle tax payment and integrating, and also the prototype and the future testing of the QR code, number plate, stickers, and so forth. I believe it was a fruitful and productive meeting. In that regard, I would like to just confirm some things. And there we mentioned, for example, that we had the first prototype, which we saw a picture today, I believe, in one of the media houses. of 2 different stickers. So it's not that we're going to use both of them. We were showing the first prototype, which was the bigger one, and then we had a smaller one. And again, it's still a prototype. And yes, there will be testing on the government vehicles as of May 1st. We're hoping to have it launched then. We'll have them all on the government vehicles, and we'll also have a few of them that are not real to show that you can't duplicate them, you can't create your own, for example. And we'll have a few officers testing and checking the vehicles and spotting the fake ones, for example. And I had a few other questions in regards to the cameras. Yes, we're also looking at having the cameras updated, so that the cameras that we currently have on the roundabouts and so forth, that they'll be able to scan the QR codes to help when it comes to controls and so forth. So that way you'll be able to lessen the manpower of individuals going on the road and police officers going on the road to do physical controls. But now we also have the cameras being able to pick up on the QR codes. And as we continue to build this ecosystem of going more digital, we'll be able to then, and the Minister of Justice is also on board, we'll be able to then have the officers focus on other tasks and so forth, because we all know that the officers have a lot of work to do. And if we could reduce the amount of time that they have to control vehicles and they could do more administration and checks and so forth, it'll just be beneficial to the island. So yes, there was also a question in regards to savings. Obviously, a metal plate costs more than a sticker, for example. And the other question I had this morning, so we had a lot of questions, came in before the media actually, in regards to, we also are discussing of having artists or graphic designers also come in to participate in designing the next plate for 2023. So that's also a question that we had. So I just want to address a couple of those. And one more, in regards to the central bank, we have, the central bank is launching, has launched a competition for the HAVO, VROMI students and Coruscant St. Martin, as well as local and international bachelor and master students. They're invited to participate in the competition, and it's the prize for the best profile paper based on economics. The scholars are asked to submit a profile assignment, and you could go on the Central Bank website, www.centralbank.cw, to get further details. The deadline for submission is June 3rd. That'll be all for my current updates.
Thank you very much, Minister Artwell, for your opening remarks. At this time, I'd like to invite and welcome the Honorable Prime Minister and Minister of General Affairs, Silveria Jacobs, to address you. Prime Minister.
Thank you, Charity. Good morning to my colleague ministers. Good morning to you, Charity, and of course, the rest of the staff of DCOM working diligently behind the scenes, the members of the media present, as well as those following via other means, and of course, the general public of St. Martin. It's always a blessed day to be alive, and we give God thanks for that. As we all know, on April 2nd, the world celebrates World Autism Awareness Day, and as a government, we are also taking part in some activities on that day as well, or I will be in any case, and I will be updating once that takes place. But in terms of awareness, we continue to support awareness in St. Martin and the world of the realities of children and adults with autism. This week, March 28th to April 1st, marks the celebration of Firemen's Week here on St. Martin. I'd like to take the time to thank them for all the hard work they do throughout our community and wish them a happy Firemen's Week. They have opted to keep the celebrations small this year. However, in conjunction with the Positive Foundation and the Electrolytes Foundation, the St. Martin Firefighters Foundation will be hosting a walkathon, Walk for Health, under that theme. Scheduled to take place on April 9th at 5 a.m. The aim is to promote and further encourage the population at large to continue practicing healthy lifestyles and habits, which, despite the reduced restrictions surrounding COVID-19 pandemic, we will be taking part in. So you are encouraged to support this endeavor and, of course, work towards becoming a more healthy population. Last Friday, March 25th, as Minister of General Affairs, I had the honor to swear in 18 civil servants from the various departments within General Affairs in the presence of their colleagues and family members. Of course, this is necessary throughout government, and I will continue to inform the other ministries how soon their members will be able to be sworn in as well, those that are still pending in any case. The 18 civil servants who took the oath included staff members of the Fire Department, the Department of Communications, some who are right here in the room, 2 members of Foreign Relations Department, as well as 1 of Personnel Affairs, and 1 of Legal Affairs, 2 from Facility Services. It is truly an opportunity to commend them for the hard work and dedication that we know civil servants have to do in service of the people of St. Martin. And as we strive to build back our economy, we strive to encourage them to continue to persevere as well. Thank you for your service. I have received information from the Civil Registry Department to remind the general public that they are busy cleaning up we are busy cleaning up our general database, and there are quite a number of persons with expired passports. So you are asked or reminded to not wait until it's an emergency, but to deal with that as soon as possible. The Civil Registry Department has been making some public service announcements as well, so you can tune into those, but definitely ensure that your documents are up to date. Last Wednesday, I also had a visit from the U.S., a courtesy visit, first one, as it is a new one. Ms. Margie Bond is the new U.S. Consul General for the Dutch Caribbean, stationed in Curacao, and we were able to have quite a good discussion, as well as receive updates and discuss several matters of concern. During the visit, we discussed some current or still ongoing challenges that is an important one for both countries related to reporting on human trafficking, as well as possibilities for finding more opportunities for MOUs in education, business, and culture based on our treaty, and as well as an update on the preclearance situation. One of the other topics that was very interesting was ways in which the Council could seek to assist St. Martin in achieving our sustainable gas and energy goals. So I think this was a very good startup discussion. The Dutch-American Friendship Treaty was also discussed. And as St. Martin, we highlighted the need for this treaty to also be beneficial to the people of St. Martin as well. So the Council is open to looking into how the benefits conveyed in that treaty can be reciprocated to the people of St. Martin. As it relates to preclearance, on the U.S. preclearance issue, Bond expressed that due to budgetary constraints caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, among other challenges that the U.S. government is facing, that the U.S. Customs and Border Protection will not be proceeding at this time with preclearance, not just in St. Martin, but wherever. So they're not looking to expand their reach at this time based on their own limitations. They are paying close attention, of course, to their own national security, and so there is a momentary pause where preclearance is concerned. As government of St. Martin, however, we remain committed to continue to realize this when the conversation is ready to be resumed, and so therefore any and all necessary preparations that need to be made on our side to ensure that it can happen in future will continue to be done. So the preclearance work group, which is a multidisciplinary team, will be advising the Council of Ministers, continue to advise us moving forward. They will continue to monitor and liaise with industry-related trends and stakeholders, as well as the U.S. Consulate in Curacao. There are 2 announcements I have via the Department of BUC, and that is that through the EU Resembid programs, 6 Caribbean islands, namely St. Martin, Anguilla, British Virgin Islands, Cayman Islands, Montserrat, and Turks and Caicos Islands will benefit from an 18-month project designed to build the energy resilience of these islands while reducing our climate vulnerability. So I'm very happy to be able to announce that. On many fronts, we are working to reduce and our climate vulnerability and increase our resiliency. And so that project, I will have the department put out a press statement with more details later today, as well as the update that PAHO in 2021 launched the EU-funded Smart Shelters project in collaboration with us as Government of St. Martin, specifically with the Ministries of General Affairs, VSI, and VROMI. The initiative focuses on building resilience by improving emergency response and disaster preparedness through the construction, outfitting, and pre-stocking of 2 smart multipurpose community centers, a gender impact assessment, as well as shelter and risk management training will also be done. PAHO has contracted local engineers, ICE and ILACO, to provide design and construction management services and assigned the gender assessment and shelter management training to the American University of the Caribbean. So we are moving forward with those projects. Thus far, the implementation of these projects has been progressing well, with all stakeholders zealously combining efforts to complete the necessary actions within the allotted time frame. I must say I'm impressed with the work that has been done thus far, and I look forward to be able to present the 2 much needed multipurpose shelters to the communities upon completion. I'd also like to publicly thank the EU and PAHO for their contributions and the interest in building St. Martin's resilience, particularly as it pertains to disaster management. This will surely ensure a safe and secure shelter for the communities, and we will also put forth more information on this later today. I'd like to take the time over the weekend. I did attend the Junior Queen Carnival competition, as well as the speech and cultural presentations by the other older ladies, teens, seniors, and mature. And I'd like to take the time to congratulate our newly crowned Junior Carnival Queen, Miss Ariana DuPont, as well as congratulate the first runner-up, Miss JD Illage. Both young ladies did an exceptionally good job in representing themselves, their families, and St. Martin. And I look forward to them continuing to shine their light as they grow. Congratulations also to the many ladies that represented in cultural wear with their many creative takes on what that actually is, representing St. Martin, and their very passion-filled speeches on the hot topics that were presented. Congratulations to all, and I look forward to, of course, the culmination of said cultural pageants in our upcoming carnival. That's all for now, Charity, and I look forward to any further questions.
Thank you, Honorable Prime Minister Saveria Jacobs, for your opening remarks. If you have just joined us, you're tuned in and watching the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, March 30th, 2022. We thank you very much for joining us. We now move on to the question and answer session, to which Ms. Bibi Shah Hodge of SMN News, you have the floor.
Thank you, Charity. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, ministers. My first question is to the Minister of VROMI, Minister Doran. I do agree with you that GEBE situation is very sensitive, but also the public deserve to know. Minister, last week when I asked you about this situation, you said you were waiting on a report. Have you gotten that report? Did the temporary manager take any responsibility for failing to protect this company while he was ahead of the IT and now temporary manager? And can you tell us how much will it cost the company for the Florida-based company to try and retrieve the company's data?
Thank you for your question, Bibi. Again, as I would like to reiterate, this is an ongoing situation, whereas even those that have infiltrated the system are watching this press briefing maybe to find out and get information on the steps forward. Therefore, I choose not to delve into the details. I had a meeting last week with the temporary manager, along with the Minister of Finance and some support staff from GEB, as well as the company that is working on the decryption of the information. So therefore, I rather not comment at the time, and I hope that you could respect that.
Thank you, Minister Duran, and also thank you, Bibi, for your question. Moving on to the next member of media, Mr. Stephen Cyrillian of PJ82 Radio, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Dunker. Good morning to you, Prime Minister, ministers. Good morning to you as well. My question is for the Minister of Finance, and if I might add, innovation possible. Can you provide some information as it pertains to the budget of 2022? And how far ahead are you with the 2023 budget?
Thank you, Stephen Cyrillian. Yes, the I in finance stands for innovation. The budget 2022 has been approved, also signed by myself and the Prime Minister and the Governor. So it has been contra-signed. So it now be just wait on the ratification process. So the budget has been approved and signed by all the necessary parties. In regards to budget 2023, early this year, January, the Ministry of Finance, we have outlined the process of having a budget on time for this year, September. And that outline has been sent to the ministers, SGs, and controllers, financial controllers. And up to yesterday, we were on schedule. There were 2 ministries that had a couple of extra things that they had to do. But so far, we are on schedule in regards to having the budget on time for the first time probably in years, hopefully this year, September. So we are on schedule currently.
Thank you, Minister of Finance, and also thank you very much, Stephen, for your question. Mr. Ralph Contav of Phillipsburg Broadcasting, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Thank you, Dunker. Sorry. Good morning to everyone. My question is for the Prime Minister, but I would like to ask a follow-up to a statement made a few weeks ago by the Minister of VROMI, which relates to the contract signing and screening of the appointed board members of GBE. And my question to the Prime Minister relates to the General Audit Chamber's 2021 annual report, where they pointed out that at least during the period that the report was being compiled, you have not requested the advice relating to the declaration of ministers about their business interests and ancillary positions and activities. So has this finally been submitted, and have all the ministers in the Council of Ministers provided such information? Thank you.
Can you clarify the question? You're asking me whether?
So in the General Audit Chamber 2021 annual report, one of the several stuff among the several stuff they highlighted was that a request had to be made in order for them to receive the ancillary positions and activities of the ministers in the Council of Ministers, but that wasn't done. So I'm asking, has it finally been submitted? And yeah.
Okay, what I would like to update is that in terms of whether the information has been provided to the General Audit Chamber or not, I will check with the Secretariat. However, prior to swearing in as ministers, all candidates, before actually becoming ministers, must distance themselves from any ancillary positions. So if there needs to be a report on whether they have done so or not, I will double check to ensure that the Secretariat forwards that information to the General Audit Chamber, but prior to swearing in, that has to be ascertained before the person can be sworn in.
Minister Duran? I grant you the opportunity, Ralph, to go ahead and repeat the question.
Just real brief, a few press briefings ago, you stated that the screening process still had to be ongoing for the board members, the management board of GB, as well as contracts that had to be finalized. So I'm just asking for an update on that.
Thank you for your question. In regards to the screening, that is ongoing for one of the managing directors of one of the proposed managing directors of the board, and the other 2 haven't commenced as yet. They're still in negotiations with the SBOD.
Thank you, Honorable Prime Minister, as well as Minister of VROMI, for answering the question from Mr. Ralph Contav. Moving on to Mr. Lyndon Brown of BCN TV, you have the floor.
Good morning to the people of St. Martin and the ministers that are present here today. Question to the Honorable Prime Minister Sylvia Jacob. Last week in our press briefing, Minister, you said that St. Martin will have to follow anyway, setting a sanction against Russian Russian ships or whatsoever position that any Russian national have here in St. Martin. But there are some ships that are grounded, Minister. What will be the fate of these ships? What will be the outcome, Prime Minister?
To clarify, what I mentioned is as party to the treaties belonging to the Kingdom of the Netherlands, we are parties to the treaties, and as such, we have to uphold them. In terms of grounded, I don't know specifically what you're talking about, but any and all, so the aviation department and other execution agencies would be monitoring and dealing with any persons that would be, let's say, infracting any sanctions that have been executed. So in terms of if that's whatever the law states, that's what has to be done. And it will be executed by the necessary agencies within TEAT as it relates to travel.
Thank you, Prime Minister, and also thank you, Lyndon, for your question. Ms. Jacqueline Hoffman of the Daily Herald, you have the floor.
Good morning, ministers. My question is for Minister Irion. Minister, regarding the landsverordening. Yeah, it's on. Regarding the landsverordening op de loonbelasting, Article 28, ketenaansprakelijkheid, chain liability. With regard to companies, including government companies that have work and projects carried out by subcontractors that employ undocumented persons, can these companies be held jointly and severely liable for paying taxes for these workers? And is that being done? And if so, can you explain about which companies and how?
Thank you for your question, Jacqueline. Jacqueline, I believe the article you mentioned, you want to refer to Article 21, actually, not 28. I think you said 28. Article 21, which is the ketenaansprakelijkheid. And in this regard, it's only applicable only to the contractors as it relates to the subcontractors in this case. It's not liable for the taxes of the contractors or the subcontractor. So if you have, for example, the main contractor, they're not liable for the taxes of the subcontractor. So no, they're not.
Thank you very much.
Just want to confirm that was your question, right? Yeah.
Thank you, Minister of Finance, and also thank you, Jacqueline, for your question. Bibi Hard Shah of SMN News, you have the floor.
Thank you, Charity. My question is to the Prime Minister. Prime Minister Jacobs, I would like to refer to an old case and to get a better understanding as to the procedure that is being used in the case of dismissal of management in any government-owned companies. In 2012, Prime Minister, the CFO of Winair, he was arrested for fraud, forgery, etc., etc. At the time, even had a contract with the finance department of, when he was arrested. The day after that person was released, he went straight back to work, and up until today is the CFO of Winair. I'm trying to understand the yardstick being used in the case of the PJIE situation or any other government-owned company when members of management is accused, arrested, and not even charged. They are suspended and dismissed. What I'm trying to get at, Prime Minister, why wasn't the same procedures that are being used now at PJIE being used in Winair? If there is a difference, can you outline that for us?
Thank you for that question. You are talking about governance issues, as you know. Under the Ministry of General Affairs or within COM, we are working on improving governance in general. Things that happened in the past, I cannot state the details of how it took place if I was not involved. As you know, with the current case, the Minister of TEAT has the lead from the Council of Ministers in responding to any queries related to that. The different government-owned companies with different articles of incorporation would utilize their rules and regulations, and where that is lacking, the civil code comes into play. So the civil code counts for everyone, And at this point, I do not know what was done in the previous case, but indeed, the due diligence will have to be followed in all cases where we are busy assessing as well. So due diligence has to be followed and corporate governance rules have to be followed. And where that is lacking within the articles of incorporation, then the civil code is used.
Thank you very much, Honorable Prime Minister, as well as Bibi, for your question. Moving on to Stephen Cerillion of PJD2 Radio. You have the floor.
Thank you. My question is for the Minister of General Affairs. In the past, there has been much talked about the proper continued cooperation between Dutch and French St. Martin. We recently saw the election of the new administration. There has also been the talk of a collaborating council between the two parties, French and Dutch. Will you, as the Prime Minister, Minister of General Affairs, continue that conversation with the incoming administration of French St. Martin?
Thank you for the question, Stephen. Indeed, I missed in my opening statements to add my congratulations to the French side, the northern side of St. Martin, with their recently held elections in 2 rounds, which saw the RSM and the alternative join together to secure the victory of the majority of seats. Also congratulating all the other parties of the party of Mr. Gibbs, as well as Hope, for the seats that they garnered as well. They will be swearing in on Sunday as a Council of Ministers. We have been invited. A lot of work has started on the technical level to forge that platform under which we can structurally collaborate better, seeing our different constituents' status on both sides. We do have some challenges with that, whereas certain things we are directly responsible for, which on the French side, the collectivité is not. However, we'll continue to seek ways and means in which we can enhance our cooperation and collaboration. And as I mentioned before, that remains very high on the agenda. So that platform already exists. A lot of the groundwork is being laid, and as soon as the new government has been sworn in, we will resume those talks. And I wish to congratulate once again the new government as they are sworn in and continue to pledge to work together in the interest of all our people.
Thank you, Honorable Prime Minister, and also thank you, Stephen, for your question. Ralph Contav of Philipsburg Broadcasting, you have the floor.
Thank you, Charity. My question is for the Minister of VROMI. And my question is, one of the long-standing issues which has been in existence before 10-10-10 has been the emergency homes built after Hurricane Lewis. Can you tell us what plans do you have for persons living in those homes? Have you had any communication with them, and will they, in return, end up owning those homes? Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Ralph. Ending of last year, when I had the discussions with the Housing Development Foundation in regards to allowing the persons that have the homes in not only in Belvedere, but also in the other areas to be able to potentially become homeowners, that discussion is still ongoing. I want to also make it very clear that those homes are in a very deplorable state. Those homes are not meant for long term. They were, the term you use is correct, emergency homes. And here we are more than 2 decades later utilizing these same homes. Ultimately, the goal, my vision and the vision of the government on a whole is to promote home ownership. Hence the reason you saw several initiatives that came forth. I mean, some are on a bit of a go slow now, so to speak. Nevertheless, we continue to push forward and find ways and means with the limited resources that we have. That discussion with the Housing Foundation is still ongoing, and I hope that we can yield some results very soon. One of the issues or concerns that was brought forth as well is that apart from the emergency homes, those in Belvedere are part of a mortgage that the Housing Foundation used to refinance. So that in itself complicates things in terms of sale. However, those conversations are still ongoing. And relating to the emergency homes, those that are in a better condition, we hope that we were able to see how we can work towards passing them over to those individuals. Thank you for the question.
Thank you very much. Minister VROMI, and also thank you, Ralph. Mr. Lyndon Brown of BCN TV, you have the floor.
Yeah, question to the Minister of Finance, but all of the ministers can weigh in on this matter. Minister, recently you mentioned about funding for Turning Point and also Extension Mental Health Foundation. Now, what we are seeing that Turning Point and Mental Health Foundation, they don't have no space. And I went to the mental health, there's an increase of, well, everybody have some aspect of mental problem, but there's a stigma. Those people that are on the street, people who are discriminating them and calling them crazy, but some people can control. But in extension, Minister, what's the plan that you guys have for the expansion, more space, more recreation for these mental challenged people? What's the plan?
Thank you for your question, Lyndon Brown. I'm not the Minister of VSA nor the Acting Minister of VSA, so I don't have any current updates in regards to Mental Health Foundation or the expansion plan and so forth. In regards to Turning Point, myself and the Minister of Justice, yes, we did support the MP that brought the amendment to the budget to increase the amount of subsidy to Turning Point. That subsidy has been approved by the majority of members of Parliament. The budget has recently been approved as per the question from Mr. Civilian, and the Turning Point Foundation can now also request that additional budget that was made available to them. So that process can happen. In regards to spacing, again, I'm not a Minister of Health. I'm not in current discussions with either mental health in regards to their spacing and so forth.
Thank you, Minister of Finance, and also thank you, Lyndon, for your question. Ms. Jacqueline Hoffman of the Daily Herald, you have the floor.
Thank you, Charity. Minister Irion, in November last year, the Minister of Justice announced that an action plan for the crime fund was finalized. After, in the years before, there was hardly no administration and millions of dollars unaccounted for. What does this mean for the budget? And were you included in your talks on the action plan for the crime fund? And also, if, for instance, there's a delay in the collection of fines, like last year, the prosecutor released a press release saying that there were 3,999 outstanding fines. How do you budget a crime fund with amounts totaling hundreds of thousands of dollars still missing?
Thank you. That was a few questions. I'll try to answer all. One, I believe I already mentioned last week, so the crime funds is generally in charge by the Minister of Justice. The Minister of Justice has to report to the Minister of Finance on the plans for the crime fund. So as you properly indicated, the Minister mentioned already that she has created a task, action plan for that. Have I recently seen it? No. I know she has made me aware that she was working on it. I haven't seen it. So we're actually doing the steps that haven't been done in the past. So the official way it works is there is a crime fund where the Minister of Justice is in charge of it for preventative measures when it comes to crimes. The Minister then has to report to the Minister of Finance on how she plans to execute these actions within the crime funds. And then I'm supposed to then go back and check within the year, for example, has the Minister executed the task that she says she will execute? On the budget, there is a line item for boetegelde, fines, and that is budgeted for about 200,000 guilders, I believe. But what is not accounted for and unpredictable when it comes to crime funds is, let's say, for example, if there's a seizure of an asset, for example, and this asset is sold, that is not something we could account for. We don't know that they're going to seize the asset, so you can't budget for these unpredictable items. So, and you had another question. Just to follow up again, the Minister of Justice is in charge of the administration of the crime funds, not the ministry. And we can't also assign. We can't take the crime funds budget and say, oh, we'll take it and we're going to build a house or build. No, it is properly outlined what these crime crime funds is allotted to.
All right, thank you, Minister. I'm sorry, Ms. Hoffman, I'll have to intervene as well as also remind the media it is one question per round, all right? And we will now be entertaining our third and final round of questions. Due to time constraints as well, please, we'll kindly like to ask you to also remain within time and be in mind of that as well. Short, precise, and to the point. Ms. Bibi Hartshaw of SMN News, you have the floor.
Thank you, Charity.
You're most welcome.
My question is to the Prime Minister, even though she is not the Minister of Education at the moment. And maybe the Minister of Finance can put his 2 cents into this. There is always a budget for sending students abroad, study financing. There's always, every year, money budgeted for this. What is in place for an ROI, like a return on government's investment? These children go away, they study for wherever, you're financing them. What is in place to make sure that those students come back to St. Martin and serve maybe government for a period of time instead of paying back any money? What does government have in place?
Indeed, Bibi, your initial statement that I am not the Minister of Education any longer, indeed, the minister would have to give the details as to the ministry's plans. But I do recall him having mentioned in here that there are strategies being worked out with the GEFMIN, the Minister Plenipotentiary in the Netherlands, programs for persons to be able to register from abroad, because that's usually the area where we have challenges to get our students to return from. We do know that the most of the other students that go to other international areas that are not within the kingdom more or less would have to return unless the business where they do internships, they're allowed to stay an extra year to gain experience. And if they are found, if the businesses sign for them, like would happen here, of course, they have the option to stay as well. So indeed, based on our laws and regulations, some changes would have to be made to be able to sort of enforce that even more, but I believe we need to work from a more incentive basis. We do offer some incentives in terms of what we pay for them to return, in terms of their costs to travel back, as well as an amount for their goods and et cetera that they had established themselves abroad. But of course, we continue that this has been a challenge over decades, and the initiative right now is between the Ministry of ECYS and the department, the GEFMIN in the Netherlands, to enhance that. But more details, of course, can be had directly from the minister.
Thank you, Prime Minister, and also thank you, Bibi. Mr. Stephen Cerulean of PJD2 Radio, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Dunker. My question is for the Minister of VROMI. In your opening remarks, you made mention that the ministry will be holding a job mixer. That is good specifically towards filling in all crucial positions within the ministry. How many openings do we have in this ministry?
Thank you for your question, Stephen. Well, if I have to go regards to the openings, I believe there are 44 FTEs in the ministry. However, we narrow it down to the critical vacancies and those that are budgeted for. It amounts to about 8 or 9, if I'm not, around 8 or 9. You have to take in consideration persons went on retirement. We have 2 or 3 staff members that passed away within the last year, and also those that have resigned or move on to further their career in a different field. So with respect to that answer, we have about 9 critical vacancies that we're gearing towards recruitment. I've always spoke about, because coming from the Netherlands as well, and having a hard time to find a job, I believe firmly, I strongly believe that we as government need to put provisions in place to be able to attract students, which ties into the previous question that was posed. So this job mixer is basically to try to attract persons in the respective field of the ministry throughout the various departments. And once that is concluded, we see how we were able to fill. And if not, then we proceed to the Netherlands. I'm already in contact with the GEFMIN to try to pull back some students as well to do the same thing there, basically. You can relate it to like how we would have the Fred Expo and those different fairs that you had back in the day. So the main goal is to bring them back. And I would say Operation Bring Them Back, get our students back into our mix and get them to be able to contribute. because we have a priority list that we send out with certain professions. However, somewhere along the line, people get lost along the way, and the goal is to bring them back. Thank you.
Prime Minister?
Yes, thank you, Charity. I'm very happy to hear the minister go into, I asked back for the floor because I was answering from not being the Minister of Education and forgot the cap that I wear as Minister of General Affairs in terms of our own vacancies. So I do commend the minister on this initiative. We do have quite some capacity issues, and that continues to raise its head publicly as well within government, and finding the right mix of skills and educational background to meet our critical needs. And so I look forward to the results of the job fair that the minister will be having to fill his critical vacancies. But as Minister of General Affairs, also we have put out, for instance, vacancies. We have enlisted third parties, hiring agencies to find, for instance, legal persons as well to fill functions within the ministry and the ministries, and that remains a challenge. So we definitely need to do more to incentivize those students or persons who are years already in the diaspora who may be willing to come home to help build St. Martin. I think the strength of a country lies in its human resources, and so through this medium, I'm hoping any of them listening out there would see opportunities to make themselves known if they're in the Netherlands to the Minister Plenipotentiary St. Martin House office, and otherwise directly by our vacancies department within the Ministry of General Affairs. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister, and also thank you, Minister Duran, and thank you, Stephen. Mr. Ralph Contav of Phillipsburg Broadcasting, you have the floor.
Thank you, Charity. My question is about Carnival for the Prime Minister, but I have a budget element that perhaps the Minister of Finance can add to. But my question is, for the parts of the village that are still damaged, when will repairs take place? And it was also mentioned in the 2022 budget debate that Carnival should go on bid. Is this something that will still take place, or does government have other plans? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. The Stichting Overheidsgebouwen, which is in charge of the management of the festival village, the decision was taken to repair it. However, the advice that came up to be approved had to go back for further details. We are also in direct discussion with the supervisory board of the SOG to ascertain the specifics of the damage, updated specifics of the damage, so that it can be repaired. Unfortunately, it won't be done prior to the current celebrations for this year, but it definitely is part of the priorities of this government to ensure that is done, whether it is from insurance funds or from direct funds of SOG or general means. It is past due that this had to be done, but of course we would want it to be very specific and to be able to put it out on bid and receive those necessary bids. So it is a priority. From the financial aspect, I don't know if the Minister of Finance, the second part of the question. Oh, the bidding of
Not
Carnival.
sure if you could, I know the minister Tia not there, but
The bidding of Carnival still remains, for 2023, still remains the goal.
All right, thanks.
Right. Thank you, Prime Minister, and also thank you, Ralph. Moving on to Mr. Lyndon Brown of BCN TV, you have the floor.
Question to the Honorable Minister of VROMI. Minister of VROMI, it was a great day for you. Were you making housing available for St. Martiners? Minister, who is likely to own some of these houses? For instance, person who in the bracket of minimum wage. So could you comment and give us an insider? The luxury home up at Bishop Hill. Yeah.
Bishop Hill.
Last week you mentioned about in the squad area down by the gas station area, where you mentioned about these luxury homes. Yeah, Belvedere, sorry. Just
Mr. Brown, just for clarity's sake,
just
you're referring to the press release from the Housing Foundation, or are you talking about the Bethlehem Housing Project? Which one?
Yes, yeah.
The Housing Foundation?
Yeah, where you mentioned about the luxury home, that's what I'm emphasizing, which can be available
Okay.
Is that clear enough for you,
No,
Minister?
no, but I'll just delve into both and then
Yeah,
just
yeah.
make it
Please
clear.
proceed, Minister.
In regards to the Bethlehem project, that's a private project by a private investor, of which I was invited with some staff members from the Ministry of VROMI for the symbolic groundbreaking as they were starting the infrastructure there. In regards to the project of the Housing Foundation, I was informed by the director of the Housing Foundation a few weeks ago during the tower groundbreaking of the renovation that they will be delving into this project. And I believe that anywhere that there's housing being developed is a good thing. And I believe that even if this is for sort of affordable housing for middle-class persons, once you have persons that are, let's say, living in the social homes, they will then move into those homes, and then you would have the domino effect to make space available for those that really need it. So I'm full force for housing. We're signing a lot of building permits with a lot of different investment that is taking place. As I mentioned, over the last couple of months, that there's a lot of appetite for investment here on St. Martin. So that is a good thing. And for me, it's my job, along with the team, to ensure that we can get these things done as soon as possible to deal with the dire need that we have for housing and lack of on the island. Thank you for your question.
Thank you very much, Minister Duran, and also thank you very much as well to Mr. Lyndon Brown. I'm very sorry at this time, members of the media. Okay, we'll entertain the final question. Ms. Jacqueline Hoffman of the Daily Herald, you have the floor.
Thank you. Minister Doran, December 21st last year was the third extension for the Ministry of VROMI to reply to the Ombudsman regarding the denial of a permit for the security hut and boom at Beacon Hill. The Ombudsman warned that failure to reply would be a breach of law. Is it correct that you then did not reply to the Ombudsman?
You're talking about the security booth at Beacon Hill?
Yes.
I'll have to double check. I mean, it's been a while. However, just to give a brief update, the permit was denied. That is a public road, as I explained. I think I touched on it several times in the press briefing on the media and also in a press release. So therefore, I'll have to double check with the team and check what the last correspondence was. But just to reiterate that you cannot block a public road. And yeah, that's pretty clear to me.
I'm asking about a complaint at the Ombudsman.
Again, I'm reiterating, I have to double check with the team to verify what information was sent and not sent, but I just gave a holistic view on the situation in itself.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you
you very much, Minister Duran, and also thank you, Ms. Hoffman of the Daily Herald. I would like to also thank all members of the media for being a part of today's press briefing. Once again, for any further questions, you can send those over to the Minister's Cabinet. Honorable Ministers of the Council, members of the media, radio listeners, and online viewers, this brings us to the end of the Live Council Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, March 30th, 2022. For rebroadcast, be sure to tune in to St. Martin Gov Radio 107.9 FM. And for video on demand, do log on to the official government's website at stmartingov.org, also YouTube channel and Facebook. Do also tune in to TEL TV Plus and TV 15. On behalf of the Department of Communication, I'm Charity Dunker, and thank you very much for tuning in.